So I'm not quite sure exactly the first time I saw a crystal Bache, but it was online. There's very few of these in the world. And what initially drew me to it was the fact that I saw it and absolutely did not understand the object. So yeah, I was basically drawn to it by the mystery of it, and it seemed like a really interesting challenge. And from there, I started to seriously kind of explore what how this might work and how I might build one. And initially, I thought it would take me a month, and 6 months later, I was still scratching my head at the tuning. My name is Rob Funkhauser, and I'm an Indianapolis-based experimental composer, instrument builder, and performer. I started making music in junior high school, playing drums, hoping to join a band with some of my friends who were all learning guitar. And then in high school, started playing in band and orchestra and listening to a lot of classical music. Went to Indiana University and studied music in the background as I studied philosophy. Afterwards, I did end up coming back to the institution, as it were, and got a master's degree in music composition from Butler University. I started building my own instruments because, frankly, instruments are rather expensive to buy, and on into college, I started really having a desire to experiment with a lot of different kinds of sounds beyond, my normal drum set, and then eventually started to get fascinated with instrument design itself. I started building things out of household objects like metal mixing bowls, resonant pieces of metal I could find, pieces of wood, and then from there it branched out into a minor obsession with sort of seeking out instruments that I could look at, learn about, and then extrapolate my own designs. So a lot of the early years were copying designs for things like kalimbas and perfecting how to tune those, and then as time has gone on, I've worked a little bit with electronics, and throughout all of it, instrument building has sort of been a vehicle for me to understand the world around me a bit better, whether it be programming a synth on the computer or, learning how to tune a gong, for example. For a long time, you could find some grainy videos on YouTube, and that was about it. I did learn the name from the description in a video one time called a crystal Bache. And the Bache brothers were these French sculptors. They were exploring these sort of friction-based instruments. The concert one, sort of like what I'm doing, where there's multiple notes in a scale, was a rather late thing that they started doing. And to my knowledge, the Bache brothers themselves maybe only built 4 or 5 big concert instruments. They built a lot of sculptures, but in terms of thinking of it as a concert instrument, they built far fewer. And it's got, pieces of glass coming off these big pieces of metal, and sound is happening somehow. There was something about this that was uniquely interesting to me because it was something that I knew when I was finished I would have never seen it before in person. The instruments themselves are pretty few and far between, even the ones made by the original guys. So really, this was the easiest way for me to experience this instrument in my house. When I started making the instrument, I had a goal of 1 month from start to finish. I thought I had all the parts I needed. Then I think it was about 7 months later that I felt like I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then after about 8 months, I played my first show with it. So at that point, all the notes were working to a reasonable degree, and things were pretty steady. The way this instrument works is that we've got this metal plate down here which acts as the resonator, and then we've got these metal rods that have been tuned after a fashion by using these weights to stop the vibration at a certain point, and then positioning these to generate vibration. So basically I take one of these rods and it goes in And then I've got 2 wrenches that are the same, so I can tighten it down. And you just have to do that about 14 times. So the way the instrument is played is actually fairly fun and interesting. So you get your fingers wet and you play the glass rods, almost like you're playing a wine glass. But in this case, instead of the glass itself producing the sound, the vibrations go into the metal rods that you can see that are vertical and cause those to vibrate, which then gets spread out through the metal shelf on which it's all bolted to. So the metal shelf acts like an amplifier in certain respects. And the glass rods are like a keyboard. So each one corresponds to a different note. In this case, it's A minor, which classical people would kind of scoff at me for using the easiest key, but it was also based on the fact that the lowest note I successfully tuned on this instrument was an A. So I just started working up from there. So the instrument this instrument in particular sounds like, at times it can get as sweet as like a flute or a violin, but it also definitely has a growl to it. The resonator being made out of just sheet metal adds a gritty character to it that I really like. And as you put more vibrations into it, it can sometimes do things like almost like overdrive, like a guitar pedal. So it's got a really interesting range of sounds, from like really sweet sounds to very ethereal or alien or even very aggressive sounds. A funny thing happened when I finished the instrument. I actually caught myself asking myself, well, what am I going to build next? I sort of had to slow down and be like, what you're going to do next is you're going to play this instrument that took 8 months to build for at least that long. So I've played a few shows with this instrument. I'm still getting the hang of it. Still learning the voicing and things that it likes, it doesn't like. It definitely has its quirks, but like any classical or serious instrument, it begs to have time put into it to get better at it and learn what it can do more easily, as well as the extremes it can be pushed to. So my plans for it are just to push it as far as I can.